Mini Son of Monsterpalooza. We are back with Ken Calhoun and Piff Phillips, who we were just talking about this. Again, I invited people to come on and visit the booth, people who I've known for a really long time and people I've never met. And I worked with both of you guys at Legacy Effects.
Yes.
And, know that you're both talented, but I don't know a lot about you.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are super, you're on Instagram, social media, all this kind of stuff. But I know that you're both really talented and you're both really funny. You love monsters and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, I gotta have Ken and Piff on. So. But it's great to have you guys here.
Thank you for
Thanks for
inviting
stopping
us.
by the convention center.
Yeah, thank you. This is the best booth out of everything. Yeah, this is the one that we had to see.
Yeah, I know. Luckily, I wasn't constrained because I know this is wider than the technical Monsterpalooza booth.
Mm-hmm.
So I cheated a tiny bit. So when I actually go next year, I'm gonna have to
scale it down a little bit. Yeah.
Or start building smaller stuff, as my wife
Yeah,
says.
Exactly.
That's what I say.
That's what she says.
I don't really have any control over that.
Do the heads have to be that big? It's like, they kind of do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
I have to make them that big. So, no, I met both you guys at Legacy Effects.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I mean, I've been gone from Legacy for about almost a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I said it to Alan earlier.
Yeah.
I was like, what? It was like, I know, at times it feels like it was like 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
And the time just goes by like that.
Mm-hmm.
But where did you guys start out in the shop? Did you guys start at the same time or roughly the same time?
No, I started years beforehand on Brian Sipe had got me in on Terminator 5. Terminator
At Legacy?
At Legacy,
Okay.
yeah. When I was 23, I think. I just moved down to Los Angeles at 22.
From where? So where'd you grow up?
Seattle. We're both originally from
You're
Seattle.
both from Seattle, okay.
Yeah. High school sweethearts.
Yeah.
Been
Oh,
together
really?
since
Okay.
14
I
years
thought.
old.
See, now I was under the impression that now I know this stuff. I thought you guys had actually met at Legacy.
No,
Oh, yeah.
no.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. What?
We don't really play up our relationship at work.
Yeah.
We just don't. So there were a lot of people who were like, didn't know we were together until they found out we got engaged, and they were
Yeah.
like, oh,
like they just ride
congratulations."
together all the time.
Congratulations, because
Yeah.
I didn't know that she told me.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But yeah, I started on Terminator, and I did that for a number of years, and I started out on Terminator in the foam room, and then that rolled into Jurassic World, X-Men, Suicide Squad, and then Brian Sipe gave me another shop.
So you were in the foam room.
I was in the foam room for a while.
So meaning, for some people who don't know, what do you do in the foam room?
In the foam room, it was mostly running foam latex, prosthetics, suits, things like that, and then
So
also
you're
doing
helping.
silicone.
You're mixing the foam,
Yes.
the components,
Mm-hmm.
dumping them very carefully into a mold.
Very, very carefully. It's all very
injecting it.
yeah.
It's like surgery. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was doing that for a number of years, and then it was, I don't know what year it was, but it was Guardians 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is coming out, and Brian Sipe gave me an opportunity to kind of lead the in-shop Drax, the making of all the Drax prosthetics. So I was resculpting the tattoos, running the transfer department, doing that, and then the following year I did the lead painter on the Drax prosthetics as well.
Right.
And then I just did that for a number of years, and then she started working on Captain Marvel, right? That's when you started working, because she had started working for Brian Sipe.
Yeah, so Ken started working in effects initially. Like, he was the one who's like, I want to be a makeup artist. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this.
Super supportive girlfriend.
Yeah.
14 years
like,
old.
He's going to be a makeup artist. Okay, so then I felt like I needed to learn as much as I could to help him, because I always hated when people had, like, family that didn't know what was going on, and they would be like, oh, that yellow mouse is really cute, and you're like, Pikachu? Like, why would you say that? Like, you should learn a little bit about, like, things that the person that you care about cares about.
Right.
So I would, figure out whatever materials he needed and that kind of stuff, and then that led into, because people are flaky, that he would need help on stuff, and he'd be like, I need hands, I need help. And
Sure.
so I'd help him with things like that. So in doing that, because he had worked for Brian previously doing Got Flesh transfers, I had learned how to run transfers. And so Brian ended up needing help in like 2017, I think, and I happened to be in the neighborhood at the same time.
Okay.
And so I'm like, well, I'm already over here and I know how to do transfers. I can help you with Got Flesh. So then I started working for Brian, and then Brian brought me on for Captain Marvel because there were going to be a lot of transfers for it. And then from there I ended up just staying through for the rest of like about a year or so, and then that's when I led
Now,
into...
what are transfers? What's the difference between a transfer and a prosthetic? Because I know what a prosthetic is. So you if you've got a silicone prosthetic or a foam latex, which a lot of people. So what's a transfer?
Yeah. So it's a prosthetic transfer. So they're still appliances, but they're appliances that are based in the material they're made out of is glue. It's a glue based. Basically, you
is
can
it
make
top
anything.
secret? Can we tell what it is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody has their
there's-
own formula
Yeah.
for
Okay.
it, but it's all basically the same premise.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all basically generally transfers or prosade transfers, and so they're glue-based adhesive, and different people have different methods of if you freeze or if you dehydrate or
Right.
whatever your process is. But it's dried in some form or has some skin created, and
Do you guys know where that came up?
That came
Who
from,
came up with that?
I believe it was Christian Tinsley.
Okay.
On, I believe it was Passion of the Christ. I
All
think
right.
they were trying to develop they wanted, because they knew that he was going to be dragged through the dirt, blood, and things like that. So they wanted a prosthetic that would go on quickly and then have a lot of wear and tear. So he developed, along with other people, the prosthetic transfer of taking prosade adhesive, freezing it on acetate paper like a temporary tattoo, demold it, because once prosade is frozen, it kind of stays in a rubbery state.
Yeah.
And then you dehydrate it to get all the moisture out. And then just like a temporary tattoo, you put so the transfer is, the prosthetic is facing this way, put glue on top of it, put water slide paper on top of that, and you peel the acetate, which is on, peel it off the back, so now the back side of the prosthetic is exposed. That goes onto the skin, water goes on that, water reactivates the emulsion that's on the transfer, and then you peel that off.
So how do you figure that out?
I don't know.
That's the
Exactly.
thing. So I mean, this is the prosade, like the thick prosade,
Yes.
is put into a mold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
A silicone mold.
Okay.
Has to be
Yeah.
a silicone mold. You have to flex the mold off of it once it's
Sure.
frozen. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's one of those things. I remember when everybody was messing around with like gel-filled silicone or gelatin appliances, but
Yeah.
going into like an encapsulated,
Mhm.
you know, because when I first started,
Yeah.
it was like foam latex,
Everything's
Yeah.
foam.
foam latex,
Yeah.
foam
Everything's
latex.
foam.
It's
Yeah.
like there was nothing else. And I mean, guys were doing some gelatin stuff, and you know, but that doesn't hold up really well on set. But it
Yeah.
looked really, really good. So
Yeah.
I started messing around with like, well, why don't we do this gel-filled, you know, like encapsulated, you know, the way they started. And it's just weird to see how that grew.
And it's not
Yeah.
even that long ago. Like, you know,
No.
watching on like the first X-Men in 2000, seeing the stuff that they were
Yeah.
doing on that, and seeing some of like some of the. I'm a huge makeup geek. Both of us are. So like
Yeah.
we go on like the forums and we see like they were encapsulating silicone with latex and like using tin
Yeah.
silicone instead of platinum silicones
Right.
and all this. And it's not even that long ago that we've developed. We kind of take it for granted now that we have like these beautiful gelatin or silicone filled appliances. When it was just like a few years ago, they were trying to figure out how the hell do you even get it to work? How do you get paint to
Yeah.
stick to it?
Right,
I remember talking to Vance Hartwell about the first time that they got silicone appliances on set, and they're like, "It's nothing
Yeah.
sticking to it. We can't
Right.
do anything. What are we supposed
How
to
do
do
you
with
glue
this?"
it down?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it looks beautiful. How do we use it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not even that long ago.
And it's another one of those tricks where it's like, well, this
Yeah.
is what we want to use. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what our job is. So then
Yeah.
you started making appliances.
Yeah.
And so now this is so in encouraging and helping out Ken, you kind of went, I think I like this stuff too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize that I had already started like learning how to do different things just in helping him. So I'd
Right.
already like helped with like life casting and helped with mold
Right.
making and all sorts of stuff. And so then when I started getting into it, actually like being at Legacy, I was like, I do really enjoy this.
Right.
And my previous background was I was actually a federal secretary for the National Labor Relations Board.
Oh, boy.
And so so Brian had known that I had been a secretary, and so that's how it led me into being in the front office at Legacy was, okay, well, you have the organizational background to be able to handle like scheduling and to be able to kind of keep track of, if you need hundreds of things, to be able to delineate all of that information into
Right.
like easy to read charts and trackers and keep up with where everything is in the shop and where it needs to be and what the dates are as everything is like moving. So
Right. That's great.
Yeah. She was
That's
super
very
helpful. Yeah. She's super helpful. Yeah, it was great because on Captain Marvel, it was the first time where I was kind of like given a lot of things to do. Like I was always given like tasks, but I got to do the most on that: sculpting, molding, painting. And so it was great having her there because she knew how to do all those things with me. She could
Right.
finish a sculpture, she could do a mold. We had like our own little shop within Legacy of just us running everything.
Right.
And when it came time to like running the background characters and all these hundreds of makeups, I'm not very good at math. I'm not good at like staying organized. So it was great having her who could also, she knew how to do that, but also understood being an artist and understood what
Right.
I needed, where she knew that, like, okay, well, this prosthetic isn't painted correctly, you need to take this one back, move this one here. So that was really helpful, having somebody that was organized but also artistic. So it's great having somebody that's I can work with, that understands my language when I say something, or I can speak
Right.
to her.
Right,
all
right.
of us have a shorthand.
Well, no, it's like, like Alona, who's just off camera. Alona, my wife.
Yeah.
But in like Dawn and Tamara, who were just here, we're all fabricators. We all sew.
Yeah.
So we start talking about the way we are going to cut foam or cut fabric or sew this or do that. And there's a little bit of we can almost just not talk. It's like, well, we're going to take, and if we do that, it's like, no, I get it. Just give me that and I'll sew that together.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Or somebody's already got it pinned. It's like, I'll finish that and I'll, because you know how that all sort of works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we have with makeup, where like I can
Yeah.
come home and I could have like a gag where I'm like, okay, I have this makeup that I need to do. It's Reservoir Dogs Phantasm 2. She's like, oh, okay, it's a cut the ear gag. Okay,
Right.
now I can say that, and she'll
your old
immediately
cut
know.
the ear off gag.
The old cut the ear off gag.
That one.
But I could do that, or I could be like, oh, they asked for this type. They asked for this kind of UK blood. She's like, oh, okay, hammer blood. That kind of blood. We kind of have that shorthand as far as
Yeah, or
makeup goes.
Understanding too, like what if he's like, I'm going to be doing this, to be like, okay, if I'm making a materials list for this, this is everything he's going to need, and checking like, do you need this or do you want that, or what are you looking at for this? Are you what adhesive are you going to use? Are you planning on, is this going to be Prozade or Telesis, or trying to work on that stuff with him, so that way I already have the basis though to know, like, you didn't pack this, I didn't see this, like, or is there a reason why this isn't here? Because in the like mix
did you
of
just
everything,
forget?
yeah, but it's like there's so much chaos that's always going on. Like, those are the things that I feel like ends up working best for us as a team, is like having that like backup support to be able to say, like, is this intentional, or was it just in the mix of all of the things that this is not here? So
now, are you still at Legacy or not?
No.
So you're on your own?
Yes. Well, what had happened for because we got laid off at the same time,
the
right?
same day.
The same day we got laid off, and the day that I got laid off, just by chance, Steve Prouty reached out to me.
Okay.
He's just like, "Hey, my buddy wants to get a tour of Legacy. Can you give him a tour?" I'm like, "Funny thing, I just got laid off.
I just got laid off,
but I'll see what I can do." And he's like, "Oh, why don't you come work for me?" And then I was laid off for like 15 minutes, and I worked for Steve, and I was shop supervisor for Fusion Effects for about a year.
Yeah,
Okay.
right
And
up
then
until
right up until COVID, and then the work slowed down.
And so where were you?
Yeah. I was gone for a little bit, and then I went to another shop for a minute doing some silicone prosthetic work, and then I was back at Legacy for a minute, and then I kind of like took some personal time for a little bit.
Okay.
So and then COVID.
Right. And then COVID. So, I mean, I see you're posting all the time. It's like paint, dot, all this kind of stuff. And I mean, is that stuff you're doing for shows, or is that something that you're still just keeping your hands busy? You're just constantly creating, or?
For me, in the beginning, it was just constantly creating and just trying to get better at stuff. Just taking the time to just practice.
I don't know if Ken, did you like this nickname in the beginning? Because you got the nickname of Super Ken.
Yeah, I like the nickname.
Okay,
I did. Yeah.
Ken was Super Ken around Legacy because he just ping-ponged all over the shop. I want to learn this. I want to learn that. It says he was all over the shop, so we called him Super Ken. And for a short bit, I was like, I don't think he likes that nickname. So we weren't quite sure. And then I saw your Instagram handle. It was like Super Ken. He's like, I think he's okay with it.
Yeah, he's come to terms with it.
He's kind of embraced it, I think.
Yeah,
so.
no, I've always liked it. I always just thought it was something that was really cool.
Was that something that was handed? Was that your handle before you came down here? Or?
No, that was in the foam room. Because King Culver used to work in the foam room.
Right.
So they needed a way to differentiate us. So Corey and Jake gave me the nickname Super Ken.
Super Ken.
And so I wanted to live up to the name because they started, kind of taking me under their wing, and I wanted to like actually prove that I could be Super Ken.
I don't think you lived up to the super. They just saw you ping pong all over the shop. It was like Super Ken. I don't know. That's what we got to do. So I mean, what's the plan now? You guys are doing your thing, and
it's getting really busy now. Actually,
Good.
Like right now, like it was like really, it was just doing art just to make art, for months, and now it's like I have like 5 features, features coming up that she's helping me organize, that I'm doing makeups and things for, and going to set and building a couple of things for other artists. So it's going to be really busy. Like October, November, December, I'm going to be on set. Right. Pretty much until the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So you guys are still really new to the industry. I mean,
barely.
For the most part. So you came out
part,
when? You both came out at the same time, right?
Yeah, 2013.
2013. Okay,
years.
so 7 years. That's a good chunk of time, though. So it's not like You're about 2 years. Good
Yeah.
job, guys.
Yeah.
They got 7 years. That's a good chunk of time. So I mean, trying to think where I was in 7 years. It's like I'd gone through Beeklers, I'd gone through Alchemy, I'd gone through like that, and I was already putting in a good chunk of time at K&B at that point. So 7 years, you're kind of like 7 years. I get a badge pretty soon, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
You've been kind of beaten down a little bit. It's like I get a badge soon, right?
Yeah.
When do I get that? So, but what was it like when you guys? I'm asking everybody. Like when you were younger. I mean, you kind of do you think you fell into the industry, or was it something that was always there? What's your art background or something like that? I mean, you certainly weren't doing this type of thing before, because as the secretarial type stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because, like, looking back, like we've talked about, when you start reflecting, there are things that were definite signs. Like, my family was really young. My parents were both pretty young when they had me, so kind of irresponsibly. There were lots of, like, horror movies and things that I just grew up seeing and, unintentionally. And I've told the story, too, to a few other people in the industry that the first movie that is like the movie that is the marker of my childhood, I guess, was like, apparently my dad snuck me in to see Hellraiser, the third one. I was a year old, and he thought I would sleep through the movie, and I didn't.
You screamed through the entire thing.
So he didn't tell my mom. We went to see Aladdin, and then I started freaking out when the lights went down and started screaming about the man with the pins in his face. And my mom was like, "What are you talking about? Like, we're seeing Aladdin. Like, what?" Yeah, and then my dad had to be like, "Oh, I thought she was."
Yeah, I took her to Hellraiser.
I didn't know she actually like watched part of the movie. So like, and like there were little things throughout my life. Like my mom would always talk about how for Thriller, I was like 4. And she had it on VHS tape, and I would watch the making of, and I would watch, like, the Rick Baker, and I remember it vividly, like, him putting in the contacts. I would watch the making of, and then the music video would come on, and I would get up and walk away.
Sure.
And she's like, that's the part that you're supposed to want to see. And I'm like,
I remember when I came out on MTV, and they announced that they were going to be showing the behind the scenes on MTV. I mean, that was the thing I was glued to, of course.
Right?
It's like, we're going to play the thing, and then you get to see the behind the scenes. And I knew, of course, Rick had all that, whatever like that. And I remember my mom walking into the room, just, "What is this?" It was like the scene where he's changing, of course. But it's even the behind the scenes stuff. It's just, "That's terrible. You should turn that off." It's like, no, it's not going off. And I had that VHS too that I just wore down to nothing, and finally had to throw it away because it's like unwatchable.
Exactly.
I wish they would release that on.
I know,
Yes, they
same.
do.
I don't know
They need to
what's
release
going
that.
on with
Yeah,
that,
it needs to be.
because there's so many gems in the behind the scenes of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I used to collect so much of that stuff too. Just it's like, I want the behind the scenes. I want
Yeah,
the book.
exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
flip through the pictures. We talked about that earlier, where it's like I learned more from pictures from Starlog and Fangoria, aside from reading the articles. It's like so many times it's like, I don't think that's what they're doing in that picture.
Right.
It's like, I don't think that it's like, and then talking to guys who worked on that once I moved out here, and they're going, that article was so bad.
Yeah,
It's like, we told them that this is what we did, but that's why they
Right.
wrote, and it's like, whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, you do all that kind of, whatever.
Yeah.
You do the thing. So, do you guys, I mean, so you're makeup artist.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you see, clearly you're not going to, it's like, I want to be a mechanic now.
I'm
It's
gonna
like,
switch gears.
So, do you have a goal in mind? At what point do you win the Oscar? Are you giving yourself 5 years, 10 years?
5, hopefully, like in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay.
The main goal that I have right now is like just getting into the 706 union. Just getting into the union right now is like my main goal that I have right now. Because when I first moved out here, my main goal was I wanted to work at Legacy. That was my biggest thing that I wanted to do. Because I didn't have a movie that inspired me per se. I had artists. I always loved movies, like monster movies, Ray Harryhausen and things like that. And but the thing that inspired me was seeing Stan Winston and Steve Johnson were the two things that inspired me. It wasn't like a movie where I'm like, that's what I want to do. I don't have that Star Wars Planet of the Apes thing that a lot of people do. Mine was just, I saw Stan Winston and I saw Steve Johnson, and I'm like, that's who I want to be. I want to be like that. And so I wanted to, unfortunately when Stan passed, I'm like, okay, well, I have to work at Legacy. That's my main thing. And so when I reached that goal. I'm like, okay, what can I do now? I've kind of like reached what my 18-year-old dream was. So it's like, okay, now I want to get into the just give it up,
go back home.
Go back.
You're done. You can't start at the top.
I know.
Work your way up.
Exactly.
Where do you go from here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So just getting to the union and just doing my own shows and just kind of doing that
Right.
thing now. Just kind of doing that and just kind of having fun, just playing, just taking time for projects that
What's been a
do.
highlight so far? Is there like one or two things, either one of you guys, that you can just say, that was cool. That was a moment where it's like kind of slapped you in the face and went, oh man, I'm in the film industry. I'm making...
I have two. One was Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Because I got to carry that from like do makeup tests, sculpting, molding, painting, leading multiple departments at one time.
Did you go on set with that at all?
I went to set with that
Okay.
for a couple of weeks. So that was great because that was like the first big movie set that I'd ever been on.
Right.
So that was like a big standout one. And then my second one, which is probably my favorite one, is when I first moved out here, I worked on Human Centipede 3. That was... and I was just so happy to be out here. Like working
Human
on
Centipede
something.
2 is the better one.
Oh, obviously.
Sorry, I gotta take a sip.
Do it. But yeah, just moving out here, like, being 22 years old and getting to go to a shop and seeing molds. And I didn't care what movie I was working on. I was working on a movie. And it was Human Centipede 3, and I didn't care. It's like a movie that everybody knew.
I worked
regardless.
on some absolute crap.
Right.
I know, and that's what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to work on those movies that, like, in the
Yeah.
80s, they're like, oh, I can't believe you like that. Because
Right.
we both love, like,
Yeah.
Life Force, Leviathan. We love
Yeah.
the movies that people
We
are
were
like, oh,
just
I can't
watching
believe you
Frogs
like
and
that.
Trucks this
Frogs.
week.
Yeah,
You
we
know.
love those movies. The
Yeah.
TV show Mobsters. I wanted to have something like that where I'm
Right.
like, oh, I can't believe I worked on that. But,
Right.
like, be super proud of it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's mine.
Right.
To work on some real good crap.
Yeah, just to work on some really Yeah, Mandalorian. Yeah.
Yeah,
But Human
Mandalorian.
Centipede 3.
That's right.
Exactly.
I always turn back to Carnosaur. Oh,
See?
Carnosaur.
See, that's a great one. I love Carnosaur.
No, I know. I remember I had a choice to make. I was at John Beekler's and I had done a bunch of sketches of dinosaurs because I knew Carnosaur was coming up.
Yes.
John wanted to have not interview. I'd already work for him a bunch.
Yeah.
But he said, and it was the first Carnosaur, not part 2, which I did work a lot on. And he said, so we got this Carnosaur movie coming up. We got to build a T-Rex. We got to build a bunch of other dinosaurs. And I started doing pencil drawings like crazy. And I went in and had a meeting with him. Like, here's going to be my approach. Here's how I want to do this, and here's why I do that. And if anybody knows John Beekler, God love him. Rest in peace, John. And but he wanted to take it a different direction than me, and to be nice and political, and it's just like I was like, whoa, really? And Mike Deek had already asked me if I want to go to Romania, and so I was doing this, but it was like
Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur kid from before it was Star Wars. It was dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I'm going to be a paleontologist. I
Same.
want dinosaurs, because it's just like I want to dig up bones. I
Yep.
love dinosaurs. I love whatever, and so I was like, Carnosaur. I get to build dinosaurs or go to Romania. And then John quickly convinced, I got to go to Romania. I can't do this job with you, John. So I got out of Carnosaur. But after I'd done like a 3-month stint in Romania, came back, and then they were ready to do some reshoots for Carnosaur.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
And so they had beaten the hell out of the 1/5 scale T-Rex. And so I had to come into John's and fix that. I mean, the fiberglass was battered, and all that kind of stuff. So I fixed the skins, fixed the mechanics, took it on set, and we were on set for a few nights down at Corman's place in Santa Monica. So
That's so
Nice.
cool.
yeah,
That's so
it was
awesome.
like, and that came out like a year or so after Jurassic
Yeah.
Park,
Yeah.
or they were going neck and neck.
They were going neck and
trying-
neck. Yeah, I remember seeing like some behind the scenes of the
Right.
making of like on, I think it was called like Movie Magic or something.
Right,
like
Movie
that.
Magic.
Yeah, and it's like him. They brought in a real paleontologist to make sure that these dinosaurs are accurate, and it's John Beekler like in his tank top, and he's like
Yeah.
doing his sketches and everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, no, God love John.
Yeah.
He was enthusiastic about whatever we did, and just, he had a different style and a different sense about how he wanted to build things. But, again, like those kind of shops, I could, they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like those really small little shops where you would go in, and it's like you're hired on your first day. You walk in with your resume, whatever, and it's like, okay, here's a drawing, sculpt that, and then mold that, and then we want you to run the foam latex, and then you're going to paint it. Oh, and you also have to do the mechanics, and then you're going to take it to set. And I remember my first days. I was like, I'm going to do what? It's like, where's the crew? I mean, my first couple of films at John Beekler's shop, it was like 3 people.
Yeah.
It was 3 people. That was it.
And you see all the talent that comes out of like those smaller shops. Like people, so many people just come through.
Listen to Deke talking about it earlier. It's like Mitch Devane and John Fullage. I mean, Howard Berger and I mean, all those guys were there doing all that stuff. Tim Ralston doing mechanics and you know, all these guys doing but we're all a bunch of kids.
It was Beekler, Showstrom, like all those, just going through those guys. And you see the talent that came out.
You just learn how to do that stuff then on the fly, and I think that's part of what I think some people miss coming into it. You know, it's like when you start here, you know, like, you know, that's the thing, is like you do get kind of, you can get a little bit pigeonholed. You know, like I'm the person that runs appliances. I'm the guy that does this thing. Whereas, you know, I started out young back home. It's like, well, I'm just going to build stuff. So I was building stuff like this in my basement, you know, at my parents' house. But I did miniatures, I did costumes, I did creatures, and a good buddy of mine and I, you know, we would just make our Super 8 films, or, you know, he had a big video camera too, and we'd make our video movies.
You learned how to do everything, and that was the thing. Like when I came down, is I just
with no YouTube,
no YouTube,
no internet,
no Stan Winston,
no Stan Winston School of Character Arts, like that. I had one book. I'm gonna have to bring it out here tomorrow. I had one book that was like the holy grail of books.
I want to guess it. Savini?
Nope, it's Making a Monster.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
Al Taylor, Sue Roy.
That was great.
And it was just
Ben Nye in there.
Everybody's in.
Young Rick Baker. Stan Winston.
It's everywhere. The Bermans, the Bows.
Does it have the actual cover on it with
Not
the Dr.
anymore.
Zayas?
It's gone. It's gone.
I had one. I gave it to Walt.
Somebody sent me a PDF of it so that I can print it out. So
good.
I'm gonna do that.
Nice.
Because the jacket is it was gone. I mean, I looked at it so many times. I eventually had it folded up, tucked somewhere. Because it was just falling apart. But that was the one. I mean, that's all I had growing up. And then that was in the library, our local library. I don't know how I found that in little Wisconsin Rapids, in the middle of, you know, like I found that one book, and that's all I had. And you know, Fangorias every now and again when I could spend $1.25 on a Fango. And I mean, that was my library. Like I said, no internet. You make it up on the fly, and you look at people's tables, you know, what are they using? How are they doing that? And every now and then they would drop a thing, you know, UltraCal 30. What's UltraCal 30? Understand? Or Dikene stone. What's Dikene stone? Like that. And I remember going to my dentist, you know, because Dikene stone, that sounds like dental type stuff. Or they would talk about Elginet. And he would tell me about the stones, because I would, you know, like 11, 12, 13 years old, I go to my dentist and, do you have Elginet? Yeah, we have Elginet. Can I get a can of Elginet from you to do a head cast? To do a what with it? And I was like, you got to bring it in and show me, because I don't know what the heck you're talking about. So I would do a head cast and bring it back. I go, that's my face. Never thought about doing that with this stuff before. That's amazing. You know? So I would always come and show him stuff, and you know, did some really bad dentures for myself and all that. I remember opening my mouth in the dentist chair, and he's like, what the heck is that?
That's awesome.
Doing some fun stuff.
So cool.
But you know, you just make it up. I didn't get latex rubber. I couldn't order, it was too expensive. But then I found out the key ingredient, the base material for gluing down carpets back in the day was latex.
Oh, okay.
And so they would just pour out latex, and they had big rollers, and they would roll it onto floors, and then they rolled the carpet down, and I glued it down. So I went to the local carpet place with a glass mason jar when I was like, you know, 12 years old, 11 years old. It's like, can I borrow a quart of latex rubber? For what? Like that. And I said, would you guys have it? Yeah. And it's like, how much would you sell it for? I don't know. Like, I would never sold a quart in a mason jar. Here I am on my bicycle, like, you know, holding on to this quart jar.
Like it's E.T.
Stipple makeups and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, with just so much ammonia. And I mean, I'm stippling it, and my eyes are just like, how do I... Stippling that on and doing like stretch and stipple, but, you know, all that kind of stuff. Trying to do stretch and stipple on like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, it doesn't do
That's
anything.
like so tight to begin with, and it's like it doesn't really. You kind of look like a burn victim or something.
Yeah, it's just like really, really tight.
It just doesn't work all that well. It's like
you need
there's
to have
not
a
a lot
little
of
looser
lines
skin.
there. So
yeah,
but you know, it's what we do when we started. So what were some of your experimental makeups when you were?
Oh,
growing
man.
up? You had to have had stories like that.
So
I mean,
many. I was like the two big things that like.
did you ever pull your eyebrows off?
Eyelashes out.
Eyelashes.
I pulled my eyelashes out.
Yeah.
I was really big into like the two big things in my life still to this day is like makeup effects and like punk rock. So I was like copying like Misfits album covers and things like that. And so I was doing like the Misfits.
It's so unlike you. I don't
makeup.
see you as a punky
Right?
kind of guy.
Yeah.
Very straight laced.
proper chap.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that, and I like ripped my eyelashes out,
Oh.
getting wax in my hair.
So what grabbed onto the lashes?
Spirit gum.
Spirit.
I didn't put anything over my eye and did that. But yeah, she was most of my victim. I did most of my. I hate doing makeup on myself, so I'm just like, hey,
Yep.
can I try this out on you?
Yep.
So I did a lot of makeups on her.
Do you like having makeup put on yourself?
I've gotten used to it.
Yeah.
Like for me now, it's like okay, like just zen out and just kind of like sit. And because I understand the process now, I'm kind of like, okay, I know about how close we are to done.
Right.
So then it's like, oh, okay, I know we've still got a ways, or you can kind of tell like if it's not quite panning out the way that like we had discussed beforehand. You're like, oh wait, there's this extra step in here that we didn't talk about. Okay, maybe things aren't quite, turning out. Because I'm still the experiment even now.
Whenever I have a
Yeah.
makeup or something, I'm like, I gotta do a makeup.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it on you.
I just remember doing it for hours when I was a kid. You know, up there
Yeah.
doing cotton and latex.
Yeah.
Or cotton, tissue
build
and all
up.
that kind of stuff. Doing zombie makeups and old age makeups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, up in the bathroom for 3 hours while I did this stuff, and I'd come downstairs. My mom was like, "Is that what you've been doing up there?" And like, yeah. What else would I be doing?
Yeah, just latex
Yeah.
and cotton, toilet paper, and doing build. I was fortunate that when I was
I'm still doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Still to this day.
Honestly, I mean, this is all kind of throwback to what I was doing there. I mean, it's such a fun process because I spent so much time in the shops doing it the way we do it. It's silicone, it's fiberglass
You
mold.
sculpt it, you mold it, you paint it, and there's a simplicity to it. And like watching Chris Wallace do his stuff and like seeing you do these things, it's like it can be as simple as latex, cotton, and foam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be grown. It doesn't need to be
not all the time. I mean,
sculpted.
but there's some of this stuff. I mean, obviously we early on did a lot of foam and that's why I got hired at John Fiegler's.
Yeah.
I had foam fabrication stuff in my portfolio.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you're a foam fabricator," and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was doing that because it's cheap.
Yeah.
I was doing it because the guys were giving me sheets of foam like this from the upholstery place saying, "Oh, we're just going to throw that out." And it's like, "Oh, I'll take it."
Yeah.
Because I knew I could make it into something. And I had no idea that it's a job title as a foam fabricator.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was doing it since I was like 11,
Yeah.
something like that, just cutting foam, and then figuring out patterns and things like that. And, of course, I got much better at it.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things I've always said. It's like, if you've got like a superpower it's like I can look at three-dimensional objects and I start drawing pattern lines on it, just looking at it and just going, oh, that's where I would put a pattern. Or even looking at a two-dimensional object that somebody's drawn.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the way I would pattern it. Now, a lot of these, like, that's sculpted from solid block and solid block, but all these are patterned.
Yeah.
So those are all hollow. But
again, it can be something as simple as that, and like that's why I try to learn as much as I possibly can, because I'm not a fabricator, but I learned a lot from patterns, and I incorporate patterning into like makeup, where I can look at something and I can be like, okay, well, the Dick Smith way says you have to sculpt it, mold it, and run it. But my way of doing it is like, okay, well, I can also I can take a little Steve Johnson, I take a little bit of Stan Winston, a little bit of Rick Baker, and mix them all together, and I'm going to there's no reason why I can't do this out of a flat mold, or why I can't do that, why this can't be out of the kit, and then I take it off and reapply it.
I mean, it's just how you invent stuff. I mean, how did we go from foam latex to the silicone stuff that we're doing now?
Yeah.
It's just...
I have a question. So what was your resource for all of this information? I mean, were you just like, Ted didn't have a lot of access, you're younger, so it's like, how were you getting all of this information that you were then piecing together?
I was very, very fortunate, because I was unfortunate. I was fortunate in the fact that like my family didn't have internet, so I had to learn a lot of things on my own. So I just experimented. But she had internet at her house. So what she would do is she would go online and take notes, watch YouTube videos for me.
Is this the only reason?
This is why I needed somebody to like do makeup on. She had
used
internet.
for the internet. You let him get away with
this
it.
whole time.
This whole time.
I love you for your internet connection.
Your dial-up. But yeah, she would take
Yeah.
notes on how to do makeup for me, and then come to high school,
Right.
and like before class would show me, okay, this is what alginate does, this is what a life
Yeah.
cast is,
Interesting.
this is how you do this is how you release your eyebrows so that way you don't lose them next time, like all those
Hey,
things.
dummy.
Yeah.
Hey, stupid. So yeah,
I'm not going to date you anymore if you look like Phantom of the Opera.
Exactly. So yeah, that was my main resource, was through her, and then also just through books.
Yeah.
Making a Monster, Tom Savini's books.
Yeah.
And then later on getting into the Stan Winston School.
Right.
Was the
Yeah.
other thing that I was very fortunate that I could do that. But all the way up until that point, it was just experimentation, just trial and error. I think the expression is the master has failed more times than the apprentice has ever
Right.
tried.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just got really good at being really bad. And like that's the thing that I pride myself on, is that I know when when I know that I can,
Seriously.
because like I know that like if something goes wrong, I can fix it, because I've screwed up so many
Sure.
times and I've made so many
And
mistakes
it's-
that I can
Yeah.
cover it up.
This gag that we talked about earlier, when Mike Deek was here, when it was one of the first gag I ever had to do. That I was hired at John's, this collapsing head for a Lawnmower Man, and to this day, I will see something like every couple of years since I started that and go,
Yeah.
oh, if I only had that back then, or if I knew
Yeah.
this, or if I knew that,
Yeah.
Right.
this one little material, and I'm still reinventing that gag in my head.
Yeah.
How would I do that now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, all the things I learned. It's like I was a kid, just moved out here. I
Yeah.
didn't know how to do that. And Mike was like, I don't know. Let's figure it out. It's like, you still
Yeah.
do. You just figure it out.
Yeah.
But you're always reinventing it. So it's like, all those screw ups.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we screwed up that head just to get it to set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we finally did one. It crumbled. It did a nice job. That was even before. It just had to look good to us
Yeah.
in the shop. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's not like we weren't shooting it on our iPhone.
Yeah.
Weren't, it's like there was no internet. There were no
Yeah.
iPhones. We barely had video,
Mhm.
cameras. That it's like we have to have this head that does this thing.
Yeah.
We take
Yeah.
some pictures of it, but we weren't emailing it. Or anything.
No.
We just showed up on set with it. It's like, you like it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Does that
Yeah.
work? Yeah. Look, watch this. And we had like 3 of them that we crushed and collapsed, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
they cut between the 3 of them and all that kind of stuff, and it sort of worked. But yeah, I'm always reinventing that gag in my head.
Yeah, because that's what you do. Because you start out somewhere and like I get that.
haunts me.
It haunts to this day, every night.
Yeah. How could I have made Lawnmower Man better? Perhaps it was that gag that
That's why.
Lawnmower Man could have been.
I just picture like you showing up to Monsterpalooza and you've redone the head.
I might.
That's the goals, right?
Yeah, I might do it. I know exactly how I would do it, but that's
See?
the thing. It's like you should have seen Deke and I with we had these big 2x4 levers with all the lines connected to
Uh-huh.
it, and they went up and they were glued perfectly into this head, and they had to pop out. So they were slack lines.
Mm-hmm.
Some were slack, some were taut. So the taut ones popped first. In
Yeah.
very strategic areas. It was filled with
Oh,
Fuller's
man.
Earth and all.
Uh-huh.
Ugh. It was a pain in the butt. It was
So
fun.
awesome.
I mean, it was, but we got to play around with it for what felt like a few weeks,
Nice.
really, to mess around with it. We had several gags on that show that we had to
Mhm.
do, and some of those things would come into Beekler's shop every night. We worked on a film called California. Is with Brad Pitt and can't remember. It was early on in his career, but California. It was Juliette Lewis is in that too.
That's
Worked
the one
on a
where he has the
film-
contact where his eyes like
No,
whacked out? Oh, that's a different
that's
one.
12 Monkeys.
Oh, that's 12 Monkeys. I'm sorry.
No, but that was early. That was before that.
Oh, okay.
And it might even been before Thelma and Louise.
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
sure.
Mhm.
But then I worked on another one called Red Rock West with Dennis Hopper's in that, Nick Cage is in
Nice.
that,
Nick Cage.
JT Walsh, and that was a great. But it's another one of those things where it's like all these gags we have to do, and I'm a kid. I'm 22 or 23.
But that's how you learn. That's
Yeah.
the big like when I first moved out here. Like the first person that I worked with was Brian Sipe, and just
Okay.
lives down that way.
Let's go.
Let's go see him. And I showed up. one
I'm sure
day-
he's watching, right?
right.
Hi, Brian. Probably.
Probably not. But like I showed up to his house and like he's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna I got recommended to him by somebody and they just said, we have this show and I need this, and I was like, oh, okay, that's great. Who's gonna do that? And he's like, you are. You're gonna
are.
figure it out.
You're
And he
the
did
guy.
the same thing on Guardians 2. He came to me and said, okay, this is what we're gonna do for Drax. We want to cut the time down. We want transfers. We want it resculpted. We want to do this. I want to do that. I'm like, that's great. All right, so who's gonna help me with this? He's like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna figure it out. You know,
So that's why we hired you.
Yeah, that's why we're
Do it.
You're gonna do it, and it's like I don't know how to do that. I was 24. I'm like I don't know how to run a department. I'm just a kid. I don't know what to do, and it's just like you'll figure it out.
You do that, and I mean there'll be some stories I tell in days to come with some of these other people who are going to be coming, and it's like you always. I remember I would just sell myself. You know, I'm in a shop, I get hired, and this and that, and it's like, okay, we got this creature, we're going to build this, and it's like, oh, I did this drawing, and this, and that, blah, 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 and I think this is how we should approach it. That's really interesting. Have you done something like that before? Yeah. No, I did this before on this show, and I did it on that show.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you turn around, and the coordinator goes, really? You did that? And I was like, no, I'm lying my butt off. But it's like, I'm pretty sure it's going to work.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about this for years.
I used to do that too, except I did it at Legacy, actually, because I got hired at Legacy to work on transfers.
Is Alan watching?
Hi, Alan!
Not that I can tell.
But I was working at Legacy. I got hired at Legacy to do transfers, but they didn't have any transfers for me to do that day. Right. And Corey looks at me. Corey, check eye, I hope you're watching. Right. Corey says, do you know how to run foam, kid? And I said, yes. He didn't ask me, have I run foam? He said, do I know how? Which I technically
I've never baked a cake, but I can read instructions.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
He didn't ask me, have you run foam? He just said, do you know how to do it? Which, from studying as much as I could, I'm like, yeah, I know in theory how to do it. And so that's what I would always do. So anytime Alan or John would ask me to do something, like, have you ever done hair before? Or do you know how to do hair? Yeah.
Every morning.
I know how to do it every morning.
Exactly. Well, that Frankenstein is all punched.
Love it. Yeah, I saw that you were doing
like,
that. Just power punches. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's like... But no, I'm not a hair puncher. But if somebody asked me, it's like, actually, Greg Nicotero made me punch hair one time.
Oh, what was that for?
You can punch hair, right? And it was like, I haven't... He goes, you can do it. And it was like, okay, I guess I'm punching hair. I mean, I certainly knew how to do it.
Yeah.
I've watched people do it, and I had punched a tiny bit of hair.
Yeah.
But of course, it was something that had to be on set the next morning.
Yeah.
Of course.
Rosengren did that to me one time. He called me to his office, and he's like, well, we have this thing that needs to go out, and we understand that you kind of do hair. And I'm like, yeah, I'll try. He's like, you can do it, right, Ken? I'll try. You can do it, right, Ken? I'll try. And he was going to let me leave the office until I said yes. So I'm like, I can do it, John. He goes, that's what I want to hear. Go out there. Because I just kept saying, I'll try.
Now I can blame you if it doesn't because you said you could. We're kidding, John.
JK.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Actually, how important do you think it is for your success in this industry to embrace the quality of problem solving? Or like, how much of that do you think, having a love of problem solving equals your success in this field?
I think that's a huge part of it. Is because I think it was like Steve Johnson that told the story about Rick Baker, him looking at showing his portfolio to Rick Baker, and Rick Baker says, you're not very good yet. You're not very good yet. But what you have is a problem-solving mentality. You're just a kid from Texas, very far from Los Angeles, very far from New York. And so if foam collapses, you have nobody to ask. You just have to keep doing it over and over and over and over again. There's so much of that where it's just problem-solving. There's a lot of things that just go wrong. And you just got to kind of roll with the punches and be able to just try and problem-solve. Because nothing goes right. I think that the best artist isn't that they don't make mistakes. It's how do you cover up their mistakes.
Right.
Every makeup that I do, I can tell you exactly where something is wrong.
Oh, sure.
But if I do my job correctly, you can't tell where it looks bad. Right. Because I've hit it so well, because I make so many mistakes that you get used to it. So I think that problem solving is a huge part. What do you think, Piff?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think, too, when you're more accustomed to being in those types of high-pressure situations where you're like, I have to figure something out, you're not as alarmed, because there are so many times where you wake up and you're like, today's gonna be a good day, and then you get to work and it's like, oh yeah, like everything that was supposed to shoot tomorrow, none of that's shooting tomorrow. It's shooting in 2 weeks, and all this stuff from 2 weeks got bumped up.
Sure.
So welcome to your morning, and you're like, I'm 5 minutes in, like, can we slow down? Like, and
can someone say good morning first?
Right, exactly. You're like, wait.
Yeah.
So
that's a huge part of it. I mean, it's just, and it's a great question. It's just, and I think it's something we've kind of hit upon so far, today, is be well-rounded.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But also take confidence in what you can do, and if you haven't done it before, at least take the confidence. It's like, I think I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain I can handle that. I haven't done it before.
Yeah.
And it's just keep getting better at whatever you are doing. You know, be a better sculptor, be a better technician, or you know,
Absolutely.
painter or whatever like that. You know, I keep saying, I've said it too many times tonight probably, it's like I hate painting. I just hate painting because it to me it's nerve-wracking. And it's like a really final thing.
Yeah, everything's been done.
Yeah.
Everything's been done. Somebody has sculpted it. And to me, sculpture, like, not even bad sculpture, but sculptures that were kind of rushed, or sculptures that have to be rushed because it's like, this has to be in a mold tomorrow. We have to, you know, so we can run the latex or run the silicone or whatever like that. So sometimes sculptures that can be saved in the paint job.
Yeah.
It's like you can add texture to something that has no texture just simply by painting it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of like, I don't want that responsibility. It's like, you know, to be the last hand that touches it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what comes after paint? You know, maybe punching some hair
Yeah.
into it, putting a wig or a lace piece, you know, a beard or something like that. But I mean, that's the last piece.
Yeah.
Is that paint. And that's, I mean, which is interesting for me that bothers me because I started out wanting to be a makeup artist.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I remember starting out. Actually, it was one of. I should have brought this up with Alan when he was here. We did this silly commercial years ago. It was for Hummer, for the big trucks and stuff, and we did this goofy Godzilla type creature. And halfway through the commercial, it gets pregnant, and all of a sudden it's just walking along, holding its back, and it's got the big pregnant tummy. So I made the creature suit, and then I also made this appliance. You know, and it was all wet foamed. It was foam latex. We wet foamed on the outside. And so I did the same thing, and we had to have a feathered edge on the, like, appliance type thing.
Yeah.
And it was a big shell that I had made, and it had this thing on it. So anyhow, did that. And so we break for a bit. We have to start applying this thing because the next scene is going to be, so they're shooting other things. We've got an hour and a half, whatever, to put this on. It's fine. So the guy in the suit, which was Vance Hartwell, was in the suit. So Vance is just laying in the suit, and we get this belly, and we're gluing it down, and I'm like, you know, doing some prosate around the, you know, stippling the edge, and all this stuff, and Alan's doing the other side. And Alan, he's like laying down the edge, I'm laying down my edge, and I've got mine blended, and I'm starting to dab some paint, and he goes, hey, make sure you've got yours is glued down. Make sure that you got to do the, like, have you done makeup before? And I was like, yeah, that's what I came out of your.
Yeah.
He goes, you're a makeup artist? I said, yeah, I'm a makeup artist. He goes, finish my side.
Love it.
Nice.
So
We've got a question here.
Great.
So for you guys, one thing I want to ask is, what do you guys expect for your fellow younger artists coming into the industry, and what are your thoughts on many of them not knowing the figures of the past?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge. I was always told you can't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. So I'm a big believer in always knowing the greats, not just Dick Smith, Rick Baker, Stan Winston, but knowing John Chambers, knowing about the Bows, knowing about Ben Nye, knowing about the Freeborns, knowing about.
it's the history of.
Yeah.
It's the history of whatever if you're going to design cars, you better know who did the first one.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, it's important to know how to do that. Plus, a lot of those techniques that we do now still work. There's a lot of times where it's like, an appliance didn't make it to set. Well, I just got to do a highlight and shadow makeup straight out of the books that I read early on. Like, that's, you need to know and have that. You need to have that respect for the past, and you need to have that respect for the people and the artists that came before you. I'm a very, very big believer in that. So I think that that's something that's really important, not just knowing Instagram makeup artists, but actually knowing makeup artists that came long before. And not just makeup artists, know about Harryhausen, learn about...
Don't just know about gore makeup, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when I first moved out here, it was 89, and there were so many people that wanted to do gore makeup.
The Savini,
and the funny,
splatter.
I wasn't a gore kid. I watched Little Big Man. I love the old age makeup, in Sunshine Boys. I like, so I was looking at that stuff, Amadeus and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
That's what I watched. I really didn't go see Friday the 13th movies. I didn't see Freddy Krueger movies because it's like it's good makeup. It's fun makeup.
Yeah.
But the really hard stuff to do is like those subtle eye bags.
Yeah, and that's
that
what
really subtle little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I try to do, and that's what it's not that like it's my specialty now, but it tends to be like what I end up getting hired for is subtle makeups and character and old age makeups now, only
Yeah.
because I am a splatter guy and I love that kind of thing. So
It's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
But I was so not confident in it. I wanted to train with weights on because it's so much harder. So when I do get asked to do a zombie, when I do get asked to do a monster,
That's the easy stuff.
I'm like, oh, that's easy. That's nothing.
Right.
I don't have to blend it to their face and make it look
Right.
like it's a part of the face. Okay,
Dab some
great.
blood on it.
Yeah,
Done.
dab some blood. I'm done.
Yeah.
So like that's why I started doing aging makeups and subtle makeups and things like that because I was so like I would get such anxiety going to set doing something like a zombie. I'm like, well, if I get good at aging makeup, then everything else will
Zombie's
just be
easy.
super
Yeah.
easy.
So
yeah,
know your history.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Know your history. Know the craft. Not just from. Don't just know who Stan Winston is.
Yeah.
Don't just know who Rick Baker is. Go back as far as you can.
Learn about Millicent
And know-
Patrick. Learn about
Learn-
Harryhausen.
Learn about Ken Calhoun, what he's doing. What you guys are doing. Like, but everybody, just know what everybody's doing
Yeah.
and the craft of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I as a older person in the industry and who has worked with people under me, supervising shows and stuff like that, I expect a lot out of like younger people coming in because when I came in, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was young, but I knew I was confident with my sculpting. I was confident-ish with my mold making,
Yeah.
my fabrication and things like that. So I expect a lot out of younger people coming in. And when I see younger people coming in that kind of have their hands in their pockets and they're not
Yeah.
quite sure what they're good at,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're not quite sure what, and it's like, you don't have any direction. And it's like, and
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
hard to stop and show people. We talked to Alan Scott about that. It's like, when we
Yeah.
got a 2-week schedule, I can't take somebody by the hand.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
means right now, like when you're a young person, whether you're 15 or you're 25 or 30 and you want to get
Yeah.
into the film industry, you better do the work first. Do
Yes.
that
Yeah.
legwork. Be really good because you're not going to get hired at a Legacy Effects unless you've got a book and you can hustle.
Yeah.
You get in there and, so it's just work hard. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
people won't get a job.
Yeah.
Work hard so that you will get that job.
Yeah.
Well, and I would definitely want to extend that, not just like appreciate and the craft and the people who came before you, but I want to definitely emphasize appreciating the craft as a whole, because that's usually the difficult part that I run into with people that are just coming in that are like even our age or younger, is that they're just like, oh, I just want to be a makeup artist. And then they kind of like poo-poo on like mold shop and like other departments, and you're like, no, you can't take this to set and apply it if all of these other people hadn't done this work.
Right.
Like, don't put down all of these shop departments. And that's kind of something that I know I've definitely run into, where I've come into interactions with people where they're immediately like, so you're a makeup artist? And I'm like, well, I do shop stuff. I haven't actually ever been to set. I've never actually really done I've done a couple, we did like a fashion show thing like years and years ago, but like I haven't really done on set stuff, and I haven't ever really had that like wanting to go to set. But I've really enjoyed all of the shop stuff that I've done. I've we did fiberglassing this summer and I loved it. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is really fun. But to walk up and to say that to somebody that's younger, that you actually enjoy mold making or that you enjoy running, running silicone or running foam, it's such a taboo thing in this industry.
You got to like it all.
Exactly. And
I mean,
you
it's
should
all one
appreciate it
part
all.
feeds the other. It's all from designing it to everything else. What?
We have one quick question from
For
Vicky,
sure.
who we all know and love.
Vicky who?
Vicky!
Vicky.
We've got
I know.
5 minutes left, and she wants to know from you guys. I want to know what project was most challenging for you, and if it turned out to be one of the most rewarding.
Ooh. All right, you probably go with this one first. What was your most challenging?
Well, she already knows my most challenging, because we're all in it together, but it was definitely probably Mandalorian, because it was something that felt special in the moment, but I definitely was like, I fell into this industry. I was like, I was not somebody, like, as much as I've been helping Ken for years, I never looked at myself as somebody who was actually a part of the industry. I was just, like, around it. Like, all of our friends were in the industry, like, Ken's in the industry, and I knew things, but I never really owned that and, like, had taken the time. I didn't go to school. I didn't, like, take the time to really study. So being in this situation where now I'm around all of these amazing artists, and then being in a situation where, like, they need things from me. And if
Right.
I mess up, like if I give somebody the wrong dates for something, that's going to ruin everything. If I don't get a shipment out on time, like if everything isn't ready to go, like that's going to delay, set.
Right.
That's like, there was so much in that for me was so like, oh my God, this is so nerve-wracking. But then as soon as I got into it, I was like, I really love this. And I really love being around so much knowledge and so much of things that I never would have thought of and I had never seen before, being only in like, running silicone parts or running transfers. I had never really gotten a taste of that production side and seeing how that interaction is with everybody. And I was like, yes, this is amazing. Like, this is the dance that I see that I'm like, this is what makes it so worth it. Because when everything is so departmentalized, you don't see the rest of what happens. And I think that that's the experience a lot of younger people get into, is they get into a shop and they end up so departmentalized, and they're in mold shop or they're in foam room that they're like, I never want to do this. I just want to go to set. I don't ever want to do this again. And it's like, no, but like it's this beautiful harmony if you look at it from above, and you can see all of the pieces working together. You can see this thing coming
Let's all sing
through.
a song.
So that for me was like, it was really just rewarding and incredible, and then it turned out good, and that was great. Because it's always nice when like the project is something you want to watch. So.
I think that my most challenging thing was Guardians 2, because I was 24. Just turned 25 and being told that you're going to be a department head at Legacy Effects, and you are going to be in charge of buying materials, you're going to be in charge of making sure that the artists, in direct contact with the artists, and it was just that constant fear of don't mess up. It was that line in Care, they're all going to laugh at you. That's what just would constantly play in my head. They're all going to laugh at you. They're going to say, see, you weren't good enough. Just like they said, you aren't good enough. And so it was really challenging getting over that anxiety of being really hard on myself, and then also other people that maybe did, I never felt this way at Legacy, but like in my mind, they were all looking at me like, he's going to mess up.
Right.
He's going to mess up. And so just that constant fear of doing that. So, I mean, she'd have, she knows, like, we'd have, like, I have like a spider web pillowcase, like a pillowcase with spider web, and it kind of looks like a burn scar a little bit. Okay. So I'd wake up in the middle of the night, try and flip over my pillow, I'm like, the transfer isn't coming out. She's like, Ken, you're not at the shop. You're not at the shop. I'm like, the transfer isn't coming out.
I still have those dreams. I'm still cutting foam or doing plastic or something like that. And
so I was having those.
Does she want the most challenging?
Do we have a minute? And what are we at? 1 minute.
My most challenging and rewarding, Monkey Bone.
Yeah.
Nice.
Most rewarding, Endgame. There was no reward for Monkey Bone.
Monkey Bone's great.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody out there who is watching today, tonight. I certainly appreciate this. We're going to do it Saturday and Sunday. I've got so many great people. Go on Instagram, check them out, who we're going to be having on Saturday and Sunday. Mini Son of Monsterpalooza, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody, or good morning.
Thanks, everybody.